Welcome to Soft Feminine. I've always been a tomboy. Shorts, sneakers, oversized hoodies. These were my armor, my identity. I spent weekends at the gym, lifting weights, running laps, playing basketball with the guys down the street. Makeup, dresses, high heels? That world felt foreign, like some strange fantasy I could never touch. Then, it all changed one afternoon. My mom, arms crossed, watched me in the kitchen. "You know," she said casually, "you could try being a little more feminine. Just once." I laughed, thinking she was joking. "Mom, seriously. This isn't me. You know I'm not." She cut me off, her eyes sharp yet calm. "I don't mean a little, I mean a full transformation. 2 weeks before the school's pageant. You're going to be the beauty queen, just like your sister always wanted." I froze. My chest tightened. Beauty queen? Me? My hoodie-clad reflection stared back, like a stranger. My mind raced. Dresses, makeup, high heels. The thought alone made me want to run. But her smile had a force I couldn't ignore. 2 weeks. I'll help you. And just like that, my world tilted. The first day of the challenge felt surreal. My mom laid everything out like a carefully curated display. Dresses, skirts, blouses, shoes with heels so high my toes screamed just looking at them. Makeup kits, eyeshadow palettes, lipsticks, blushes, glimmered like weapons in a war I hadn't agreed to fight. I stared, shaking my head. "I can't do this," I muttered, half to myself. "You will," Mom said firmly, handing me a soft pink dress. "You'll do it because you can. Strength doesn't disappear just because you wear something soft and pretty." Her words stung, but beneath the sting, something sparked, a reluctant curiosity, a twinge of fear that felt strangely exciting. That afternoon, she started with skincare and makeup. I sat stiffly in front of the vanity, watching my reflection transform under her guidance. Foundation evened my skin, blush warmed my cheeks, lip gloss added an unfamiliar shine. My jawline softened, my eyes seemed larger, my face, lighter somehow. "You're beautiful," Mom said, smiling. I laughed nervously. "I look weird." She shook her head. "Weird is temporary. Confidence is permanent." Walking through school the next day was a different kind of challenge. Even in casual clothes, my posture had changed subtly from her training. Friends noticed. "You're different," one whispered in the hallway. My face burned. "I'm trying something new," I muttered, my voice barely audible. Some laughed, some teased, some stared longer than necessary. The locker room felt like a minefield, every glance a potential threat. I hated the attention. And yet, somewhere beneath my discomfort, a small thrill pulsed, curiosity, perhaps, at what it might feel like to exist differently in the world. At home, practicing walking in heels became an ordeal. I stumbled, fell, bruised my toes. But each time I steadied myself, each time I forced a small smile in the mirror, I felt tiny victories. Something inside me shifted, fear and embarrassment mingled with the faintest spark of excitement. By the end of the day, I realized the challenge wasn't just about dresses or makeup. It was about navigating the world in a way I'd never experienced, being seen, noticed, and judged while confronting an entirely new version of myself. By the end of the first week, I found myself alone in my room, the door closed, a sense of nervous excitement bubbling under my skin. The dress I had practiced in at home felt foreign yet thrilling. I stood in front of the mirror, twisting slightly to see how the fabric fell, how the skirt swirled around my legs. My fingers traced the seams, the silky texture sending shivers up my arms. I caught my reflection and whispered, almost to myself, "Who even are you?" Mom's earlier words echoed in my mind. Strength doesn't disappear just because you wear something soft and pretty. I realized that part of me, the tomboy, the girl who could run, lift, and fight, was still there. But now, layered on top, was this other persona. Delicate, visible, alluring in a way I had never allowed myself to feel. Carefully, I began experimenting with makeup alone. I blended eyeshadow slowly, discovering the subtle power of color. Eyeliner framed my eyes, making them appear bigger, more expressive. Lipstick, initially frightening in its boldness, gradually felt like armor, a shield and a statement all at once. I practiced speaking softly, modulating my voice, experimenting with pitch. "This is strange," I murmured. My voice sounded different even to me, lighter, melodic, and yet strangely commanding in its own way. I tilted my chin, experimented with smiles in the mirror, and noticed how even subtle changes altered the reflection I presented to the world. I began exploring movement. Walking around my room in heels, I felt my center of balance shift. Each step required thought, but over time, a rhythm emerged. The sway of my hips, the tilt of my shoulders, even the small gestures of my hands felt like choreography I was learning to inhabit. I discovered the power of accessories, bracelets, rings, necklaces. Each added a layer of identity, a punctuation mark on the person I was becoming. I experimented with hairstyles, braiding strands of the wig, tucking pieces behind my ears, letting locks fall gracefully over my shoulders. What shocked me most was the thrill of being seen, even if only by my own reflection. I caught myself lingering in front of mirrors for minutes longer than necessary, fascinated by the subtle transformations I could make. I adjusted the costume, checked the fit, smoothed the fabric over curves I hadn't noticed before. A moment of daring came when I decided to film a short video of myself, speaking and moving in this new persona. Watching it back, I barely recognized the person on screen. There was confidence in the sway of my hips, an unfamiliar elegance in my posture, and, most dangerously, a hint of joy I hadn't anticipated. The internal struggle was real. Fear whispered relentlessly, "This isn't you. Stop before someone sees." But curiosity and exhilaration pushed back, insistently, "This is you too. Explore. Feel it." I realized, in that quiet room, that my identity wasn't fixed. I could be tomboyish, strong, and active, yet also soft, feminine, and radiant. The thrill of this secret exploration, alone, private, yet liberating, was addictive. It wasn't just a costume anymore, it was a doorway. And the door was slowly opening, inviting me to step through. By the second week, my private experiments had given me a fragile confidence, and I was ready to take the next step, venturing out into the world fully dressed. Mom insisted it had to be gradual, starting with small outings, a walk to the park, a quick coffee run, before tackling anything larger. The first time I stepped outside, heels clicking on the sidewalk, I felt every eye on me, or at least I imagined they were. The sun glinted off the strands of my wig, the fabric of my dress swirled around my legs, and I realized my body had memorized the subtle sway I had practiced for hours in my room. Each step felt both alien and empowering. People glanced, some smiled, some whispered. My stomach fluttered like a caged bird, my heart pounding in a rhythm that made my chest ache. I forced myself to keep walking, head held high, shoulders back. It was terrifying and exhilarating at once. At the cafe, I encountered my first real challenge. A barista, friendly and unaware, smiled warmly. "Hi there. What can I get you today?" I cleared my throat, voice slightly trembling but careful, feminine. "A latte, please. And a croissant." The interaction was ordinary, yet it felt monumental. I could feel the shift inside me. This wasn't just a costume anymore. It was an identity I could embody confidently, even among strangers. I smiled at myself in the reflection of the glass door as I left, and for the first time, the mirror of the world mirrored something I recognized. Over the next few days, I ventured further, small shops, a bookstore, even a short walk to the local gym. Each step was a tiny victory. Some people were curious, some surprised, and a few even complimented me on my dress or my makeup. Compliments that once would have made me cringe now sparked something warm in my chest, a sense of pride I hadn't expected. I began noticing subtle internal shifts. I could feel my confidence growing, blending with the excitement that had first stirred in my secret explorations. I learned to enjoy the sway of my hips, the tilt of my chin, the playful smile that tugged at my lips when someone caught my gaze. There was power in this new version of me, a different kind of strength than I had known in my tomboy life, yet no less real. One afternoon, I found myself walking through a park, sunlight filtering through the trees, and a small group of people passed by. I lifted my chin, held my gaze, and allowed myself a smile. And for the first time, I felt truly comfortable in my own skin, seeing the world and being seen on my own terms. That night, practicing in front of my mirror again, I realized something important. This transformation wasn't about losing who I was. It wasn't about abandoning my strength, my tomboy roots. It was about expanding who I could be. Strong, confident, athletic, and yet soft, feminine, and radiant. I could inhabit both worlds simultaneously, and the feeling was intoxicating. I whispered to my reflection, barely audible, I can do this. I am doing this. The costume, the makeup, the heels, they were no longer constraints or challenges. They were tools, keys that unlocked parts of me I hadn't dared explore before. And now, I was beginning to understand the thrill, the power, and the freedom of stepping into my own fully realized identity in public. The day of the school pageant arrived, and with it, a storm of nerves I hadn't fully anticipated. Backstage, the lights were blinding, mirrors reflecting dozens of girls preparing, adjusting, primping. The air smelled of perfume, hairspray, and anticipation. I felt out of place, and yet, thrillingly, entirely alive. My mom helped me into the final gown, a shimmering floor-length number that made me feel taller, elegant, almost unreal. The wig framed my face perfectly, the makeup flawless. I looked at myself in the mirror and almost didn't recognize the reflection, soft, radiant, poised. Are you ready? Mom asked, her voice low, almost trembling with pride. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. My hands trembled slightly, heels digging into the floor, but my posture was upright, commanding. I felt the weight of every stare, every whisper, every expectation. As I stepped onto the stage, the lights hit me full force. The audience blurred into a sea of faces. My heart pounded so hard I feared it might give me away. Every step in heels was a battle against old fears, old insecurities, and the voice in my head whispering, this isn't you. Stop. But then something shifted. I felt the rhythm I had practiced alone for weeks, the sway of my hips, the tilt of my chin, the subtle gestures of my hands. The applause began before I even reached center stage. My fear and excitement merged, transforming into clarity. This was my moment. I saw friends and classmates watching, some surprised, some impressed. I caught my reflection in the stage mirror and realized something profound. This wasn't pretending. This wasn't a costume. This was me, fully realized, boldly stepping into a side of myself I hadn't dared embrace before. When the final announcement came, my heart leaped. I had a choice in that moment: hide, retreat back into my tomboy shell, or fully inhabit the identity I had been exploring. The crown was placed on my head, and the applause enveloped me like a warm wave. I felt tears prick my eyes, not of shame, but of triumph, pride, and empowerment. In that instant, I understood. Transformation isn't about abandoning who you are, it's about discovering the full spectrum of yourself. Strength and softness, boldness and elegance, sneakers and heels, they coexist, and the courage to embrace them all is what makes you unstoppable. After the pageant, the world felt different. I wasn't just the tomboy or the girl in a dress, I was both, fully and unapologetically. The crown felt heavy on my head, but it wasn't a weight of expectation, it was a symbol of something far deeper, self-discovery and acceptance. At home, Mom smiled as I carefully removed the gown and heels. See? You're stronger than you thought. And more beautiful than you imagined. I laughed softly, a mix of relief and pride. I didn't think I'd ever feel like this. Confident, and me. Over the next few days, I found a delicate balance between the two sides of myself. Some mornings, I'd throw on sneakers and a hoodie, heading to the gym, lifting, running, feeling my old strength surge. Other times, I'd slip into skirts or dresses, heels clicking on the floor, makeup perfectly applied, relishing the elegance I had learned to inhabit. Neither version diminished the other. Instead, they enhanced each other, creating a fuller, richer version of me. Friends noticed the change. They didn't just see the tomboy or the beauty queen, they saw me, whole and multifaceted. Compliments came, genuine smiles, supportive gestures. And even those who had once teased or questioned my transformation began to nod with quiet respect. I began to understand something vital. Empowerment isn't about how the world perceives you. It's about how you perceive yourself. I had faced fear, embarrassment, curiosity, and exhilaration, and had come out stronger, confident in my own skin. The costume, the makeup, the dresses, they were tools, but the real power had been mine all along. One evening, standing before my mirror, I twirled in a soft, flowing dress, smiling at the reflection. I whispered, almost shyly, I am me, and I'm unstoppable. That night, I realized the final truth. Embracing all facets of yourself, even the ones that feel foreign or uncomfortable, is the ultimate act of courage. Tomboy strength and feminine elegance aren't opposites, they are complementary. And when you finally accept and inhabit both, the world doesn't just see you, it feels your confidence radiate. I had stepped into a crown, a dress, a challenge, and emerged as someone greater than I had ever imagined. Strong, radiant, confident, and completely, unapologetically myself. Looking back, I realized the transformation wasn't just about dresses, makeup, or heels. It was about courage, curiosity, and self-acceptance. I discovered that identity isn't fixed. It's a spectrum, a blend of strength and softness, boldness and grace. The tomboy in me still lifts, runs, and conquers challenges. The beauty queen in me walks tall, radiates confidence, and embraces elegance. Together, they make me whole. I learned that being seen, truly seen, is powerful. And the most empowering moments come when you step into the unknown, challenge your fears, and embrace every part of yourself. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a costume, I see me. Strong, radiant, unstoppable, and unapologetically alive.